Hello. Okay, so today what I'd like to do is run you through ProwritingAid. It's a software package that I use to help me edit and review my writing. So it's cost effective. It's one of the cheapest pieces of software out there, and it's quite versatile, and I find highly useful. But there are a ton of things that it can do, so it's easy to fall into a rabbit hole and start messing around and fiddling with your work too much. So what I want to do is run through this piece of software with you and just show you the things that I do, the tools that I use in it, so that you can be really efficient at your own editing and save yourself a ton of money. So let's have a look. So we'll start. I've signed in already. So we will start the web editor. And let's see who goes to my document list. This is slow this morning. This is slow this morning. Must be that snowstorm out there. So here we go. So I'm going to use testing file. Testing file is the one I'm going to open up. All this is a bit of text from my latest novel. So, and it's unedited, so it's unrevised. So all I've done is I've gone through it. I've made some quick changes to the text, but now I'm going to go through what I call my heavy edit. So this will be a heavy edit, and so here it is. It's part of a chapter. It's about 1,700 words, I think. So this is what you see when it comes up on your screen. ProwritingAid is a web-based app, so it's always up there. You don't have to download it or anything like that. So when this comes up, you're going to see the list of tools all along the top here, and as you can see, there's a bunch. So I'll go through the main ones that I use and tell you which ones that really don't add much to it. To your time, because you don't want to spend forever doing this, and it's very easy, as I said before, to get caught up in some of these things and never finish. So the first thing I'd like to do is just the summary. So this is a summary of the text, and what comes up here is a breakdown of the main areas of concern, if you like. So the first thing you're going to see are document scores. To be honest, these don't mean anything to me. So like a 70 out of 100 overall score, I don't know what that means, so I ignore it. But this does tell me something that, my spelling's pretty good and the style isn't very good, but I don't really care because it's creative. So I don't pay any attention to that. 1,700 words, okay, that's fine. This is just fancy stuff, not needed. Vocabulary, so it gives you a sense of the unique words and the word families, but again, I ignore that. That's not important to me. What is important to me is this, the readability measure. I want my stories to be readable. Now this, what that often means is the kinds of words that you use and the sentence structure that you use. In this case, my readability is pretty good, so I get the green. But it does also show that I've got two very difficult to read paragraphs. So either those are fairly technical ones, because it's a science fiction story, so there might be technical stuff in there, or it's not very well written. So I'll investigate that a bit later on. But everything else here, sentence structure is fine. I'm concerned about sentence length to make sure that I've got good variety, and you can see here that there's good variety. So that makes it easier to read as well, and that's fine. And you can go through this and look, oh, I've got 16 adverbs outside of 13 outside of dialogue, so maybe I should check on some of those. Because if you're like Stephen King, you want to slay those adverbs. I try to reduce them. I don't get rid of them all. That's just not my voice, but other things to be aware of. So it points out a couple of grammar suggestions and this stuff. But this is a summary. So you can either use it or not. And I like to just go through and check out a couple of those things before I get down to business. So let's get down to business. So the first thing I do then is I check style. So style is just one of those things that captures a few of more or less the way that you write. So as this comes up anytime now, again, there's the summary. So we've got 4 passive verbs are found. 1 hidden verb. But no style improvements needed, no long subordinate clauses, so those are good things. There are repeated sentence starts, so I might want to alter some of those things. But the passive verbs, let's have a look. So we can click down, we can go be gone. Let's have a look. And sometimes a passive verb makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. So let me look at this sentence. It was one of those things you did on the moon because if she lost gear out here, it would likely be gone forever. Yes, okay, so that's passive. That is the passive use of the verb, but I like the way it sounds, and that's the way it sounds. So that's part of my style, so I'm going to leave that and just ignore it. So I'll just ignore. Now, I do notice that right beside it is an adverb. It would likely be gone forever. So when I put my cursor over there, it pops up and it says, well, use adverbs sparingly. So they suggest just getting rid of it. So just for the purpose of demonstration, well, let's just get rid of it. So I click that and it's gone. It would be gone forever. And so we go through, and you'll notice now, because I've ignored that be gone, it's now crossed out, so it's not going to be counted anymore. So that's what I do. I go through it and I check to make sure that it makes sense. Here's the really important part, whether you're using ProwritingAid or Grammarly or any other type of software text analysis tool. You can't just do everything that it suggests doing. You have to be intelligent about it, and you have to be smart about it, or else it will have you doing weird things that are perhaps technically correct, but just make your writing sound weird. So question everything. And this is why, if you try to do too much, you could spend hours on 1,500 words and never get through it. So I look at my style. I have to check my grammar. So in Microsoft Word, there is a grammar checker function too, so I use that as well as I'm writing to try and fix the grammar as I go along. But you can never be too careful about this. So what's happened here when I use the grammar, if you look over here, it's picked up 3 spelling issues and 2 grammar issues. Let's have a look at the spelling. So biofeeder. Okay, so it's wondering about biofeeder. So what is a biofeeder? Well, a biofeeder is, I made it up for this, I'm sure it exists, but I use it in here. And the question that the software is asking, is it all one word or is it hyphenated? So because it doesn't know this word. So I have to choose. And I'll just leave it as biofeeder the way it is. So I'm going to ignore that. And I just need to remember to be consistent about using biofeeder that way for the rest of the story. Now let's have a look at the grammar issues then. There's matter-of-factly. Okay, so let's look at... Oh yes, so technically there should be hyphens in between that, and that's right. So I'll make that change. The other one was scooter. Scooter. Okay, so Mary landed her scooter off the edge of the... Yeah, scooter is the real word. It's confused though. So does it... The software wants to know, do I mean scooted? No, I don't. I mean scooter, so let's ignore that. And so that's done. So there's my grammar done. The next thing I look at is overused. Am I overusing words too much? And this is quite common for all writers. We tend to have our favorite expressions and our favorite words. So this is what happens. So for example, here there's not much, which is a bit of a surprise. Except there's the initial ing, and if you know me and if you've taken any of the workshops and any of the revision stuff, you know that beginning sentences with ing is one of the things that makes my eye twitch. So we have to be careful with these, and I do it just like anyone else. So let's look at taking. Okay, let's have a look there. Okay, taking chances wasn't in her training, so this is okay. This one works because I'm not confusing chronology or anything else. So taking chances wasn't in her training. That's okay, so I'll ignore that one. Let's look at filtering, because that might be a bad one too. Just take a look. Oh, so this is someone's dialogue. Filtering should help, right? Yeah, so that's fine. Yep, so I will ignore that one as well. So it's good. So I'm good, actually. I did okay there with my overused words. We also have things like readability. I sometimes check this, but the more I use the software, the less I rely on readability, because I have a sense that if I fix up these other things, my readability. You remember at the very beginning when I looked at the summary, there were two difficult, very difficult to read paragraphs. So let's have a look at those, the two very difficult ones. And what do we have here? Well, there's something there. I'm not sure what that is. Let's have a look. Okay. So it's this one in red. Okay, let me just bring this down a bit so it's a little easier to read. It says in red, "They are," Kate said matter-of-factly, "but their contract requires almost real-time delivery of survey results to all client subscribers simultaneously. It's why Clayton Carter and his precious Nomad are as rich as they are and can afford to build a resource company here in space." Kate pulled up the lab's environmental parameters monitoring program and reviewed the state of the habitat. Okay, so you can see that the way it's written, there are what we might call technical or sciencey type writing. The state of the habitat, the monitoring program, real-time delivery of survey results. So these are expressions, or these are words that can trip up readers a little bit, so that's why it's coming out as very difficult. The only thing that jumped out at me that I might really want to change is this here, the environmental parameters monitoring program. That's a mouthful. So I'll probably just change a couple of words there and tighten that up a bit as I go through. So that's the kind of thing that I'd look for. I don't worry about slightly difficult ones. It's not a worry for me. It's only the really tough ones. Cliches is another one you could look at. So cliches are those things, well, it's exactly like cliches. So there's no cliches in dialogue. That's good. But it's thinking there might be one outside. Tanks, okay? They had 5 hours of oxygen in their tanks. And the next, no, that's fine. So that's a good use. So it's a potential cliche, because the cliche is, oh, they tanked if they failed something. We often use that expression, and that is a cliche. So it just alerts you to the fact that you may be using cliches, and it doesn't matter if you are or not. That's your choice. It might depend on what your story's all about, but it wants to alert you to the fact that you may be using them. Okay. Stickiness, oh, that's a tricky one. Now, stickiness here, it looks at every sentence, and what it does is it identifies those sentences where there's lots of filler words, okay? So as it says here, it shows the sticky sentences in your writing. They tend to slow your reader down, and it's basically filler. So the software has found a bunch. Let's have a look. So here's one. "I do stand, but here's the thing." Okay, so this is called a sticky sentence because it's got a lot of those sticky glue words there, right? Do, but, here, the thing, and so on. But here's the thing. This is dialogue. So this is the way that Kate is talking. So I'm not going to worry so much about it here. If it's in my narration, then I might have a closer look at it. But if it's in the dialogue, no, not so much, because this is how Kate talks. "I do stand, but here's the thing," and then she goes on to explain it. So so I can ignore that one, right? Just ignore it. So let's have a look at the second one that's been identified. Again, it's in dialogue. Yeah, the engineers built this thing to last 100 years. So again, it's saying, oh, there's this thing. There's stickiness in here, but again, it's dialogue. I'll ignore it. Okay. Okay, so now this is narration. Let me get this. Okay. "More than enough to get the surveys done and return to the lab," Kate thought, "even if they did spend extra time out here." So what are the glue words? What are the sticky words that the software doesn't like? So it's more than enough. To get the, so basically all of my first, more than enough to get the surveys done, she thought. So more than enough to, so it's saying, yeah, can you tighten that up a bit maybe? And I think, yeah, maybe. So, if there are things in here, then I'll fix it up. But otherwise, if I read it out loud and my ear likes it, then I just keep it. But there are times where you do need to fix up sentences, and so this is the stickiness one is a useful one to look at. Diction I don't bother with. All repeats, that'll drive you crazy if you go in there, so don't bother with that one. These two you don't need. Echoes is a huge one. Okay, let's take a look at this. So echoes, and we all do this, echoes are words that, that we tend to use close together. So if, for example, you use the word shipwreck twice in the same sentence, it would get identified here. So what do we have? I'll just go right to the top. It says over here that there are 38 close repeats. So it's saying, hang on, you might want to change some of those things. And now let's look. So this one, echoes, I find extremely important, very useful, and this really fixes up your writing. 10 hours later, Kate awoke to the annoying incoming message alarm on the comm system. Okay, but right down here I say, she scratched her eyes, crawled out of the bunk, crept over to the comms panel. So, the comms, I might want to change comms to another one. Even if it's changing it from comms to communications or control panel or something like that, where I don't lose the meaning, but I get rid of the echo. Other ones now, Nomad engineering team in New York. Then I'm into dialogue, New York, such and such. Okay, I'm okay with that one. But I've got engineering twice, so maybe just the science and tech bay at Nomad's headquarters. So I'll get rid of that one. I don't need it. So this is the way that we fix things. So let's just get rid of New York here. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Get rid of that. I'm going to change engineering to tech. Okay, so now it's going to sound better. I'm going to change this one to control. Okay, so this, checking your echoes does take a little while. But now it reads a whole lot better. So message on the comm system, she crept over to the control panel. That makes sense. The team in New York, that's okay because I'm establishing my setting at the beginning of my chapter. This is dialogue. New York, this is LGL. Good morning. She paused. At the Science and Tech Bay at Nomad's headquarters. Okay, so now I've got Kate in here and I've got Kate, so maybe I'll just say she listened as she poured, but no, I want to establish Kate, so I'll leave Kate there. Good morning. I don't need that. I can get rid of Kate there. Stan here. I guess it is morning to you. And off we go. So a couple of things I'm going to check out here. Okay, so I've got Kate, lots of Kate. So this is I don't need him to say that. Get rid of it. Oh, sorry to hear that, but I understand. And maybe here I'll just put in, she held the cup. Okay. Right, and so the idea is you just go through this and pick out each one. So again, I think it. Oh, there's lots of those. Bunk. So I'm going to fix those up. Right? Last 100 years, 5 years. So yeah, maybe I can rewrite that. The thing is, you may not notice it very much when you're doing your writing, but the reader will pick up on these things, and it's just enough of an irritant when you're repeating your words like this. That it throws off the reading experience. So if there are little things we can change without changing the meaning of the story, then it really improves your writing. So that's the echoes function, super important. I think for me that's one of two most important ones. Structure I don't worry about. Sentencing I'm not going to worry about unless it's a real problem. And if you recall from the summary, it wasn't a problem, so I'm not going to bother. Thesaurus if you need it. Acronyms, yeah, I don't bother. Dialogue, I don't bother. Consistency with quotes, whether they're curly or straight, I don't care about right here. Pacing, no. Pronoun, yes. So this is the other one. Pronoun. We'll check our pronouns. I have a tendency to overuse a lot of pronouns. So this is the function that really works for me. So if we look over here, you'll see I've used 44 initial ones, right? So that would be things like they at the beginning of a sentence. So the pronoun percentage overall is good. So there's a target between 4 and 15% of your pronouns. Let's see. Yes, highlights the initial pronouns in your text. Repetitive use can lead to boring text. He did this, he did that, he did another thing. That's true. So overall pronoun use is good. Right, it's at 10%, and that's within the range, so I get the green check mark, which makes me very happy. Okay, it shows you the formula that they use. But the initial one, I get the big red X. So something's going on here. The initial pronoun percentage is unusually high. So what it's telling me is that I'm starting a lot of my sentences with pronouns. Okay, now it's not that the target is up to 30%, so it's not that far over, but I fix these things. So I go through then and I look at where I can fix stuff up. So maybe here's an example. Mary yawned and hopped off the bunk. She shuffled to the biofeeder, grabbed a water gel, and snorted. So maybe I'm going to change this to get rid of that one. Okay, she hopped off the bunk, then shuffled to the biofeeder. So I've just made it a longer sentence. They're an anxious lot, she says. Instead of maybe they are, Kate could say, true. Whoops, look what I did there. True, Kate said. So I've just gotten rid of two of them. Okay, so now, maybe that's enough. Let me check my pronouns again. That might be enough to fix everything up. Okay, and indeed it is. Okay, so now I have the green check mark there. Still, though, I will go through, and because I know it's fairly high, I'm going to look for opportunities where I can reduce the number of pronouns that start. Okay, she was after me too about keeping you safe from harm. I think she really likes you. So maybe I don't need the I think. Maybe I just need she really likes you. So it gets rid of a pronoun altogether, and that reduces the overall bit. So that's what I do. Now there are other ones up here. Alliteration. If you're concerned about that, that's fine. A lot of writers avoid that like the plague, he said, using a cliche. I don't worry too much about it. So otherwise you drive yourself crazy if you started going into this function. It would just drive you nuts. Homonyms, those are the words that sound the same but are spelled differently, like there, and there. So if you need to check those, you can, but I tend to pick those up through just proofreading and through beta readers. We'll pick up some of those things. Transition, you don't need to worry about. So there are other things. Plagiarism, we don't need to worry about that. You can use this, of course. You can use the software for essays as well. But plagiarism, I'm not concerned about. And so that's essentially it. So I go through and focus on those tools that are the most useful for me. So again, the tools going back is, so it's pronoun use, echoes, stickiness, overuse, grammar. Those are the big ones that I tend to focus on. Once in a while, if I've and I check my summary to know where the problem areas might be. But if I really don't have problem areas with readability or any of those things, then I don't bother. And because I'm following the plotting template that we use both in short stories and in novels, I don't worry about structure because I know it's already there. And so that's nothing I need to concern myself with. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, just to show you how to use the ProwritingAid effectively and efficiently. I can't recall what exactly the price is. I think it's about, it can vary, I think, between $40 and $50 a year. For a license for a year, and then it also has 3 years and lifetimes and all kinds of wonderful things. But the other thing is it has a free version. So you can log on, get yourself the free version. You're limited as to how many words you can put in a document at a time. But if I recall, all of the functions are usable in the free version. So check it out. I'll leave a link in the article itself, so you can check it out and have some fun with it, play around, see what you think. And so I hope you enjoyed that. Hope it didn't take too long. And we'll see you soon.